Life is full of plans, and then life is full of the unexpected. And in our Bibles, we're not short of a couple of unexpected journeys or two of people's lives that take twists and turns that they never expected and that we, the reader, might never expect. But I think that there's something that we can be learning together this summer as we ponder a couple of characters in the Bible who take unexpected journeys. And today we're going to be thinking about Abraham. Abraham and how really the latter years of his whole life were one long unexpected journey. Now we first encounter Abraham in Genesis chapter 11. If you've got a Bible, that is the very first book in the Bible. And chapter 11, just the last few verses, mention Abraham and his wider family. This is what we read. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abraham's wife, and they set out together from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years and died in Haran. The first picture that we get of Abram, who would later become Abraham, is someone whose life was incredibly settled. They'd had this idea as a family that they were going to head off to a wonderful place called Canaan, but something in Haran had made them stop. Presumably life was good there. We know that they accumulated wealth. Abraham would have been happy in this situation, not just his immediate family, but his larger family surrounding him. I don't know whether you can picture it, but you hear stories sometimes of people going on epic journeys like climbing Mount Everest. And one of the things that happens when you're climbing Mount Everest is you have the goal in mind, you have the goal in sight, and then at some point, perhaps people stop. Now, sometimes it's because they get to base camp and altitude sickness kicks in. But can you imagine someone who had their heart set on getting all the way to the top of Mount Everest, and they got to base camp and they thought to themselves, this is quite nice actually. This is comfortable. This is all the scenery that I could have imagined, all the sights, all the sounds, all the smells of climbing a mountain, but also all of the comforts of having, I don't know, do they have running water in base camp? Do they have toilet systems? Imagine that they do. Abraham's kind of in that situation where he and his family had their eyes, their hearts, their mind set on heading off to Canaan, and yet they'd found somewhere that was comfortable, habitable, preferable actually, just to stay there and to remain. Now, there's nothing unexpected about that journey so far. I think we can all understand, imagine setting off with one destination in mind, but before we even get there, finding somewhere that was nicer. But what happens next really is the unexpected part of Abraham's journey. In Genesis chapter 12, we read this. The Lord said to Abram, go out from your land, from your relatives, from your father's house, to the land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great. You will be a blessing, and I will bless those who bless you, and curse those who treat you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Now here's what was unexpected about this part of Abraham's life, this part of Abraham's journey, was that he was called by the Lord out of his relative comfort. We can imagine that situation, can't we, where everything around us is comfortable, everything around us is nice. We're surrounded by friends, we're surrounded by family, we're surrounded by wealth, all of the adornments of modern living. And then into the midst of that, God calls, God instructs Abraham and his wife to get up and to leave it all behind and to go finish the journey that they had already started. It's a call to leave everything that they'd known behind, to go to Canaan, and it's a call that mixed up in it, we read, is filled with big promises, like big life-filling promises, that the land would not just be a place for him, but for his descendants, that he would have God with him, protecting him wherever he went. That actually God would do something great through Abraham and his descendants. And one of the unexpected things for you and I, perhaps, is that physical journey of travelling from Haran to Canaan is over relatively quickly. In biblical terms anyway, it takes just 2 verses. Chapter 12, verses 4 and 5 say this: "So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, all the possessions that he had accumulated and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. And when they came to the land of Canaan, Abraham passed through the land to the site of Shechem." We're going to have chapters and chapters about the remaining couple of years in Abram's life. We have chapters dealing with, in detail, specific events that occurred, but just 2 really simple verses about how Abram and his immediate family, all the wealth that he had accumulated in Haran, travelled from that place to where God was calling him. But that's because this unexpected journey wasn't just the physical act of moving from Haran to Canaan. That was step 1, if you like, in the larger journey of stepping into and journeying through life with God. Now, I mentioned already how there were wonderful promises attached to this invitation that God gave Abraham, that God would bless him, that God would protect him, that God would work special things in the entire world through him and his family. It's really important that we note this, that those wonderful promises weren't promises of ease. They weren't promises of comfort for the rest of his days. They were a promise that God would be with him no matter what life threw up. You see, life in Canaan wasn't just butterflies and rainbows. It was filled, as we might expect, with ups and downs, with highs and lows, with all of the things that life throws at you. And yet here we have Abraham walking that journey with God by his side. I mean, to do something else would be a little bit daft, wouldn't it? It would be like setting the GPS on your car to take you to a very specific place in a city you'd never visited before. And the GPS maps out the whole route before you. It tells you which junction to turn on to the M4, which junction to turn off, the A roads that you need to take, the B roads that you need to take, and all of the details around the one-way systems in that city that you're visiting for the first time that you need to arrive at your special destination. Abraham wasn't called just to follow the GPS until he got to the land of Canaan, like we would kind of like cross into the boundaries of the city that is unknown to us and turn off the GPS and think that from that point onwards we could map our own route to the destination. No, Abraham was called to follow the Lord to Canaan and to walk with God the rest of his life. And his life was filled with highs and lows. We read about Abraham entering the land, walking from one place to another. That's a high, isn't it? That God carried him that far, made the journey a journey that he could actually make. Very soon afterwards, we read about a famine in the land and Abraham and Sarah escaping down to Egypt. That's a low, that the world is experiencing that kind of collective suffering, and Abraham and his family, following God as they were not immune to that. Then we read about a family feud. We read about him having a difference of opinions with Lot and the family separating. We can understand that, and it's a low in his life. But we also read about him leading a rescue mission to rescue Lot and his family and many other people. And at the end of that rescue mission, being blessed by this king who is a priest and a precursor of Jesus Christ himself. That's a high. We read that really late in his and Sarai's life, they have this miracle baby born to them called Isaac. The culmination of loads of hopes and fears and dreams and expectations that they'd had finally coming to bear in the birth of this son is a real high. And then God calling Abraham in this weird way to sacrifice his child, or to make an offering up a mountain, which Abraham sort of half assumes is going to be the boy, but also half assumes God is not going to demand that. Feels like a real low. And then this wonderful high on the top of the mountain, when God says, no, don't kill your child. Child sacrifice is abhorrent to me. Putting to death finally and fully that God is not into that sort of thing, and instead provides a substitute, a wonderful picture to those of us who know Jesus, a picture of what Jesus is, the substitute for us. You see, like, his life is filled with highs and lows. He'd had this call by God to go to the land of Canaan, but it wasn't a promise to just find comfort and ease, but it was a promise that God would be with him in all of the highs and in all of the lows. And in our culture, in our society, we sometimes think that lows, at least, are things that only we experience. There's that social media, one-dimensional view of life that we're so often exposed to. Like, you can imagine Abraham posting about Isaac being born. At last, I have a son, I have an heir. My life will continue beyond the drawing of my own breath, through him and through his offspring. We can't really imagine him posting about much else. And yet that is the reality of life, isn't it? Life is 3D, highs and lows, ups and downs, and everything in between. And here's the lesson for us today, that Abraham went through all of that with God. He didn't go on this journey we call life on his own, but he journeyed it with the Lord. And just like Abraham, you and I are called to a life that is not filled with self-reliance, is not called to like maintaining comfort and ease, but is a call to be lived with God, specifically to be lived with Jesus Christ. We're called to place our lives in Jesus' hands. But that is only step one, really. We're called to keep on living day in and day out, bringing to him all of our joys, bringing to him all of our hopes and dreams, our highs, and all of our lows, all of our sorrows, all of our sufferings, all of our burdens, all of our disappointments. Do you know the wonderful promise that Jesus makes to each and every one of us is not a life that is free from those things, but a life in which, walked with him, we can give him those things. He says, come to me, burdened, wearied, heavy laden. Give those things to me, and in return, I will give you rest. So can I just ask 2 questions to finish off very quickly today? Have you responded to that call in your life? Or are you stuck somewhere like Abraham and his family were in Haran? There's lots of things that will keep us from Jesus. There were lots of things that will keep us from putting our hope, our trust, our salvation into his hands. It could be comfort. You might be very well off. You might actually think that there's nothing that you need in this world because you've got it all. It could be fear. It could be fear of not knowing what life will be like if you turn and trust with Jesus. What other demands he might make of you as one of his followers. It could be doubts. There are loads of things that can be keeping us away from putting our faith, putting our hope, putting our lives into Jesus' hands. Can I encourage you, from the example of Abraham, from my example, from the example of loads and loads, generations, millennia's worth of believers who have trusted in Jesus, it is so worth it. Whatever it is that you feel like you're going to lose, whatever it is that you think that you're going to be giving up in order to put your hope and your trust in him, well, Jesus said it best, that no one who has given up mother, father, brother, sister, land in this world will fail to gain 100-fold in the world to come and in this world. See, Jesus is one who really can deliver on that promise to care for us, to keep us, and to provide us with rest. Are you someone who is still sort of sitting on the fence? You've obviously begun to think about journeying towards Jesus, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this message, and you certainly wouldn't be listening this long. But what's keeping you? What's keeping you from putting your hope, your trust, your very life into his hands? That's step one, to respond, to believe, to confess Jesus Christ is Lord. But then can I just more broadly, I guess, and sort of expecting to be speaking to more people through this sermon, this message, can I encourage you to resist the urge, having begun to walk with Jesus, resist the urge to try and live life on your own? It's actually something that you can kind of glimpse it in Abraham's life. If you want to go and read, it's all there, Genesis chapter 12 through to about Genesis chapter 25, all of the stories, all of the highs, all of the lows. It's something that he kind of fought with, battled with the whole rest of his life. The temptation, having begun to trust God, to follow God, to compartmentalize and say, no, this situation, this area of my life is something that I need to deal with myself on my own. Don't, having begun a good work, having begun to follow Jesus, don't think that you can live life alone. That would be like turning Google Maps off just as you cross the boundary, wouldn't it? That would be like thinking that you could get to the final destination without the help that has brought you that far. So, Abraham had an unexpected journey. It was to go, it was to live, it was to experience life somewhere else with God. And we likewise are called out of this world, really, and into God's kingdom, into a world where Jesus Christ is our King. What is it that you're holding on to? What is it that you're seeking to live on your own with? Let it go. Hand it over to Jesus and be sure that he is able to carry you right the way through the highs, through the lows, through all of the in-betweens. His hands are safe hands that will never let us go.
Great is thy faithfulness, oh